What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's doing good today. Um, I'll give it a couple seconds or whatever to see if anybody's even going to join in today. But today, I just wanted to talk about some of the new things Idaho has came up with for their penalties for certain sex crimes against children, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Um, Idaho has now implemented some mandatory minimum sentences for 5 different um, sex crimes against children. So that's good. Lewd conduct with a minor under the age of 16 now carries a mandatory minimum of 5 years up to 10 years in Idaho. Um, Sexual abuse of a child under the age of 12 now carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years and up to 15 years in prison. And um, sexual assault, that means basically any kind of violent sexual crime towards a child, carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years and up to life in prison, which I'm ecstatic about. There's a couple more, but it is what it is. I won't get into all of those. Um, some of the other things I believe that Idaho, and not just Idaho, I think when it comes to sexual abuse towards children, I don't think it should be a state to state deal. I believe that it should be a federal crime and handled in the federal courts. That way, there's no questioning on what appropriate sentences match what crimes. Um, there's a lot of things that need to be changed in our country when it comes to sexual abuse of children. So that's what the basis of this channel is about, and to help people who, like me, have been victimized sexually as a child, um, how to continue living our lives without it weighing on us so much, because as a sexually abused child, it's something that I carry with me every day in my life for the rest of my life, and has had major negative impacts on me a lot throughout my life. Um, this channel is also about helping parents who have had children who were sexually abused, even though their parents may not have been sexually abused themselves. I'm sure as a parent of a sexually abused child, all kinds of feelings of guilt and responsibility even cross your mind, and you carry that with you, I'm sure. Um, my philosophy on all of that is, as long as you as a parent did the best you thought you could at the time of the abuse to keep your child safe, and as long as you didn't participate in the sexual abuse or allow the sexual abuse to happen, should you be pissed off that it happened? Yeah, you should be. You should be. Should you feel guilty or responsible that it happened? No, you shouldn't. I know that when I came forward and came clean to my parents about my sexual abuse, um, that started happening the summer I turned 6, and it stopped happening the summer I turned 12. Um, I didn't tell them until I was 16, going on 17, and it devastated my parents. It crushed them, and and they felt responsible in a way for it happening and guilty that it happened, and they didn't stop it from happening. Um, my parents did a great job as trying to keep my sister and I safe when we were growing up. Even now, they do a great job of doing their best to keeping us safe and helping us make the right choices and all that. But they carried around this guilt, and it wasn't years later. It wasn't until years later on down the road that I actually found out about my dad. For one, um, feeling extremely guilty that it happened, and I'm sure he does today. And I'm sure my mom does today. But I've told them many times that they shouldn't feel guilty about it, because that's a lot of stress and emotion that you as a parent have to go through, try to deal with that. But for me personally, and I can only speak for myself, I know that knowing my parents carried around this guilt and this responsibility of the sexual abuse that happened to me, um, that really it makes it even harder, and made it even harder for me to try to move on and get better from the abuse. Um, just knowing that my parents carried this guilt with them, it makes it hard for me. Um, I hope one day uh, they can actually be guilt free, because I don't have any kind of animosity or resentment or hatred, or never for a minute have I ever held my parents responsible for the sexual abuse that happened to me as a child. Um, I just wish that I would have been stronger as a child, knowing that this monster that did this to me was telling me these things like, well, if you tell anybody about our secret, then your mom and dad won't like you, and your parents won't love you. And as I got older, the threats got harsher and harsher, and it came down to him holding a gun to my head a couple of times and telling me that if I ever told anybody, that he would kill me, he would kill my parents, and then kill me after them. If I would have just known that he was so full of shit and he was lying just to cover his own ass, I would have told my parents the first time that happened. So, from me to my parents, please don't carry around any of that guilt or responsibility. Um, you guys did a great job raising us as kids. Um, I'm here today doing this live, so you guys must have done some shit right. You know what I mean? Um, I know that it's got to be hard as a parent finding out that kind of information, but I think from a child's point of view, or even a young adult or old ass adult like myself's point of view, there's nothing different my parents could have done that was going to keep this predator from getting to me. Uh, people have this idea that when it comes to sexual abuse, that it takes a certain amount of time, or it's not. There's this common misconception, I believe. I don't even know what it is, but there was some of the times that this predator would would violate me as a child. It would only be a couple of minutes. I mean, there was one time There was one time on Thanksgiving, I was probably 7, maybe 8 years old. 7, maybe even a little bit younger than that. Between 6 to 7 years old. Um, on Thanksgiving, that this predator was at my mom and dad's house, and I had. Well, this is the exact reason why it doesn't matter if I go into a bathroom. Um, I lock the door, regardless of whether it's in a public restroom or in a friend's house or even in my own house. I lock the bathroom door, and this is why. Um, my dad just got done sticking my mom in the butt with a paring knife. Long story. It was supposed to be a joke and whatever. But I went I went to use the bathroom, and I closed the door behind me, and not within 10 seconds of that door closing, the bathroom door opened up behind me, and I knew exactly what was going on. And 3 minutes later, he walked out of the bathroom before me and closed the door behind him, and I finished doing what I went into the bathroom to do in the first place, and went upstairs in my room and got my clothes changed and whatnot. And my parents had no clue. These predators are good at what they do. They know what they're doing, and they are the most kind, considerate, sneaky ass motherfuckers you can ever meet in the world. I can sit here today as a parent of a soon to be 14-year-old daughter and a just turned 16-year-old young man, knowing that my kids weren't sexually abused as children. And I know that because my wife and I, ever since we could think they could comprehend the things that we were saying, we talked to them about it. We told them about it. We've told them about Noya. We've told them about the kind of abuse that happened, how it happened, who it was. My wife herself is a survivor of childhood sexual abuse by her stepdad. So we have a lot of knowledge when it comes to that kind of thing. So we just talk to our kids about it. For some reason, for whatever reason it may be, in this country, there's a problem with parents talking to their children at young ages about sexual abuse. No, we shouldn't have to do that with our young children, but that's the world we live in. That's the way society is. Sorry, these lights are giving me migraine, so that's the way our world is. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. So my wife and I, we never held back from talking to our kids about it. And if you're a parent of children from the age of newborn until they can really make their own decisions for themselves and protect themselves, if you want a better chance of your kids not becoming a survivor of sexual abuse like myself and my wife, and like the millions and millions of people in this, just in the United States alone, then you need to talk to your children about it at a young age. They need to know, your children need to know that it's not okay, that it doesn't matter who it is. If anybody touches you in an inappropriate manner or makes you feel uncomfortable in any way from touching you, it's probably not good, and you need to talk to somebody about it. We need to quit we need to quit babying our children so much. And I'm not saying we don't need to protect our children, because I'll protect my children until the day I die. We need to protect our children. They need protected. And we can protect them through knowledge and educating them on this kind of stuff from a very young age. If you don't want your child, if you don't want your child to pick up the habit of eating at the dinner table with their elbows on the table, do you wait until your child is 15, 16 years old to start telling them that you don't want them to eat with their elbows on the bed or on the dinner table? Or do you start telling your child from the time that they start eating at the dinner table and comprehending that you don't want them eating with their elbows at the dinner table? Do you start then, or do you start after they've already been doing it for 15 years and have known about it? Um, that's how I look at it. Um, if you want your kids to have certain habits, you teach them habits at a young age. If you don't want your children to have certain habits as a child, then you teach them that at a young age. If you don't want negative things to happen to your children, you teach your children about that at a young age, so that negative stuff doesn't happen to them. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It could be their brother, their sister, their aunt, their uncle, their cousin, their nephew, the neighbor, their teacher. Anybody is capable of sexually abusing your child if given the chance. That's how it is. That's how it should. That's not how it should be, but that's how it is. It's extremely fucked up thing to have to deal with. Uh, I am a firm believer that being a pedophile is a learned behavior. It is something that is passed down from predator to child to create more predators on children. How do you stop something from being learned? You eradicate the teaching of this. And how do you do that? Do you do that by giving these pedophiles slaps on the hands for sentences, by giving them plea deals, by making them register for only a few years while they're on probation on the National Sex Offender Registry? Or do you give them harsher sentences like, I don't know, you touch a kid and you go to prison for 20 years? Why not? Why not? I think it's fair. I think a death sentence would be fair in most cases, if you ask me. When it comes to the sex offender registry, I will always be preaching this until we get it changed. It is a failed program. It is a great concept, but it don't work. Yes, it lets us know who the current registered sex offenders are. Now, for myself, and this is just my own opinion, for myself, I was sexually abused as a child, and that can never be taken away from me, no matter what anybody does, no matter what deal I make with anybody, no matter what I do, or no matter what anybody else does. I will die being a sexually abused victim as a child. But the one who made me a victim gets the opportunity to only be registered as a sex offender for up to 15 years, maybe life in some very rare cases. But if I was sexually abused as a child by this adult, and I grow up being a sexually abused victim, I will always be a sexually abused victim. But just because the one that victimized me is older, he can go ahead and he just don't have to register as an offender after 5 years of being good and compliant on the registry? No. If you sexually abuse, read my lips and look in my eyes. If you sexually abuse a child when you are a fucking adult, you should have to register as a sex offender for the rest of your fucking life. Because that is what you are. You are a sex offender for the rest of your fucking life. It doesn't matter if it was one victim or two victims or 500 victims. You're a fucking sexual predator, sexual victimizer for the rest of your fucking life, and you should have to register as a sex offender for the rest of your life. Because after all, I will die a sexual victim myself. Then you got these stupid ass prosecutors that go into the courtroom when a person gets brought up on charges for sexual abuse, and they go up to the defense and say, "Okay, if your defendant or your client agrees to plead guilty to this and this crime, then we won't make them register as a sex offender." Wait, what? Wait, what? How come this prosecuting attorney gets to go in there and make a fucking deal for me or any person that's been victimized? Why don't they ask the victim if it's okay if they go make a plea deal just so this prosecutor can get a fucking guilty plea on their record? Doesn't seem right to me. I didn't get no fucking plea deal. I didn't get no deal that said, okay, well, he victimized you, so in 10 years when he gets to get off the registry, you're no longer a victim. It don't work like that. I didn't get no fucking deal. There's all kinds of stuff in this country that we have to change. If our children are our future, then they're the most important key to our future and our well-being as we get older in our future. If something dramatic doesn't take place in this country, something dramatic is going to take place in this country. You follow my drift? You catch what I'm saying? Every second of every day in this country, there is somebody being sexually victimized by another person. I don't care what anybody says. Statistics may say every 12 seconds, every 9 seconds, but those are just out of the ones that get reported. For every one case that gets reported, there's another 100 that don't. Every second of every day in this country. This is something that has been put on the back burner and has been a hush-hush subject for way too long. The reason why pedophilia has become such a problem in our country is because people won't fucking talk about the shit. People won't educate people about the shit. People won't let people know what's going on when it comes to real facts. But if you want to get that dude that's upstairs stomping on your fucking floor in trouble, or you want to get your neighbor downstairs for you thinking they're selling drugs, oh God, their whole entire raid will come in and fucking and get you. You'll talk to your kids about doing drugs and that drugs are bad, but you won't talk to your kids about sexual abuse and sexual abuse being bad. It don't fucking make sense to me. That's what's wrong with our country. Before we know it, if things keep going the way they go, there will be no such thing as a human being in the United States that hasn't been victimized sexually victimized as a child. Pretty soon, everyone in this country will have been victimized one time or another. And is that okay? I don't think it is. In fact, I fucking know it's not okay. Every single day you go out into the world, whether you know it or not, 75% of the people you walk past or talk to or encounter or interact with is someone that is sexually abusing someone or has sexually abused people in the past. Let that sink in. 75% of everybody you have an interaction with every single day, whether it's just a hi, hello, or you just see them, 75% of them are sexual fucking predators who are actively creating victims or who have created victims in the past and are still creating victims now. 75%. That number is just going to continually go up and up and up and up unless we fucking do something about it. When you go to prison for being a pedophile, when you get out, you have to register as a sex offender for a certain amount of time. Some states are different. Some states make it mandatory that you register for the rest of your life. But most of the states aren't like that. A lot of people believe that once somebody gets released back into society on parole or on probation, that they're monitored all the time. And they are. They're correct. They do get monitored. But only while they're on probation or parole. You see, as soon as they get off probation or parole, there's nobody there that's there to hold them accountable for what they do. No longer. All they have to do is register or send back a piece of paper 3 times a year saying, yes, this is my current address, and then go into the office once a year to get their picture taken. And however much time they were told that they had to spend on the sex offender registry, that's as long as they got to do it. I say once you're on the registry, you're always on that registry. I say once you're a registered sex offender, that you're always monitored every month, just like you were on probation and parole. Because that's how it should be. If you have nobody to hold you accountable for your actions, you're going to do whatever the fuck you want, whenever the fuck you want to do it, and however the fuck you want to do it. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So, a sexual predator the percentage is like 96% of registered sex offenders after they get off probation and parole reviolate. 96% of registered sex offenders who go to prison and then get out and do their time and do their probation or parole, after they get off probation or parole, even while they're still on the sex offender registry, 96% of them reviolate. Seems like to me that they should have to be monitored for the rest of their fucking life. That's just my personal opinion. That's just my personal opinion. I give a thumbs up to Idaho for implementing harsher sentences on some sexual crimes in our state. It's not enough. It's a start. I mean, you got to start somewhere. So I give kudos to that. Other than that, this country's going to hell in a handbasket when it comes to sexual violence against children and sexual predators in this country. It's just something that needs to be addressed, and I don't like talking to you guys about it, but I do, and it's because it's something that shouldn't. Child sexual abuse is something that we shouldn't have to talk to our children about but it's something that we have to talk to our children about. I hope that makes sense. I don't like the fact that I had to start talking to my kids at a very young age, 2, 3 years old, about sexual abuse. I wish I'd never had to talk to them about it. But I know that me doing so and my wife doing so, it's made it so my children didn't become sexual victims. To anybody that watches this, and I think the one person right now that's watching this live with me, thank you, Dad. Um, you as a parent, whoever watches this, just know that you as a parent, as long as you do your best you can to give information to your children about this kind of stuff, and as long as you don't participate in the sexual abuse of your child, or as long as you don't know that it's happening and you didn't know that it was happening, don't blame yourself. For the sake of your child, for the sake of your children, don't blame yourself. I say that because I know my parents did, and I'm sure they probably still do, even though a few times they've told me that they don't. It just makes it harder for the child to deal with the shit that's already happened to them. When you know better, you know better. Not everyone does. Can you elaborate on that? Because I'm not sure how to take that. Quint, is that your name? Um, yeah, I believe you. I agree. When you know better, you know better. But not everyone does. I don't understand that. Oh, I guess they didn't want to elaborate any because they already left. So anyway, not everyone knows better. Like, so you're telling me, are you saying that a 30-year-old man doesn't know any better? A 30-year-old man walks into a 6-year-old girl's room or a 6-year-old boy's room and sexually violates them. You're telling me that 30-year-old man didn't know better? Is that what you're saying? Please elaborate. I'm not trying to start shit with you or I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. What am I talking about? I'm talking about childhood sexual abuse and how parents can deal with the knowledge of their child being sexually abused. Why? What did you think we were talking about? That's what this channel is about. This channel is about educating people about the problem of pedophilia in this country, about getting laws changed with pedophilia in this country, about getting one of those, about getting penalties for sexual abuse changed in this country, um, and all that kind of stuff. That's what this channel is about. So, yeah, this isn't one. This isn't any other kind of channel. This isn't a clips channel or a weather channel or a sports channel. This channel has to do with trying to protect children and keeping our future safe for our children. If that makes sense. That probably doesn't even make sense to me after I watch it again. But the National Offender Registry, the Sex Offender Registry, there's nobody that sees over the people on it to make sure that they stay compliant and keep doing what they're supposed to be doing. Um, My abuser and my wife's abuser, they were both non-compliant at the same time, as a matter of fact, and in the same city, as a matter of fact, in the same county, as a matter of fact, for almost the exact same amount of time. They were non-compliant, and I even called that county's probation and parole and the sheriff's department, and they laughed at me and said, well, we don't have the resources to go and arrest everybody that's non-compliant on the sex offender registry. You mean to tell me you have a whole entire fucking department that's geared and centered towards making drug addicts stay clean off drugs, but you don't have a whole fucking department just set up for pedophiles to make pedophiles stay clean off of pedophilia and hold them motherfuckers responsible and keep them fucking going on the straight and narrow? That seems about bass backwards to me. You have a program for people who have robbed a house, who has drove a car drunk multiple times and went to prison. You have a program for all of these offenders to keep them in order and responsible for their shit. But you don't for pedophiles. Seems kind of fucking weird to me. Vigilante justice may seem like the best option, but it's not. It's not. Because that just makes it's just not. Why? Because you can't have a bunch of people running around saying, oh, I executed this person because they sexually abused the child. That's where the court of law comes into play. The court of law comes into play to make sure that this person that is being accused of this actually did this, and then execute. And then I believe they should execute 90% of them after the verdict comes in that they are guilty. But the courts don't do anything. Neither do the police. You're right. They don't. And there's a reason why they don't. The reason that they don't is more than likely because most of them are pedophiles themselves. Most of the times, these kinds of crimes don't even get reported to the police or make it to a courtroom. Most sexual abuse happens to kids below the ages of 12 to birth, but they don't keep any records and statistics of those. So I wish vigilante justice would work. But there are cases out there that somebody gets accused of doing this heinous shit that didn't do it. So vigilante justice just executed an innocent person. That's not okay. That's not okay. I have no remorse, and I have no feeling of positivity towards any pedophile ever in my life. I firmly believe that the sentences that do get carried out are way too lenient. My brother-in-law got sentenced to 26 years in prison for drug trafficking. And there was a guy in the courtroom that got sentenced to 2 years or 4 years, something like that, for his fifth charge of lewd and lascivious acts against children under the age of 12. And he got a slap on the wrist. I'm not saying trafficking drugs is okay, because I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. Would you agree that the sex offender system is a little too strict, though? What I mean is, a guy who takes a leak in the bushes and he gets slapped with being an offender, didn't harm anyone. I fully agree with your statement. That is something that needs to be addressed, because if you go back and look, Clint, Clint, or someone moons a passing car as a joke, they get put on the offender list. I don't agree with that. That to me is not sexual abuse. That to me is not sexual abuse. If I would have got charged and had to be put on the offender list every time I mooned somebody, I'd have been on the offender list 50 times. It waters down the actual offenders and makes the whole system more complicated. You're right. It does. It does. And someone who takes a leak in the bushes and somebody sees this person taking a leak, I've seen people take a piss in the bush before and it didn't damage me in any way, shape, or form, except for maybe in the fact of, hey, go use the bathroom. You know what I mean? 99% of the times, I didn't even pay attention to them. That's where we come in, and we need to stand up and make this stuff, bring this stuff to the attention of our judicial systems. We let other people make laws for us, when in fact we are the ones who are supposed to say we want laws made for us, and we want these kind of crimes and these kind of penalties for these kind of crimes. This is where my channel comes in. I'm trying to make that push to make this stuff more acknowledged in the world, in the United States. One person can't make a difference on a broad spectrum. One person can make a difference here and there to a couple individual people throughout the course of their life. Yes, they can. One person can indeed make it. Yes, I know. One person can make a small difference. This is something on a grand scale, though. We need to make a huge impact, a huge difference now. If I go down to the courthouse, or if I go down to my city hall and sit in a meeting and say, okay, this is what I think about this, and this is what I think should happen, I might get heard. I'll probably get laughed at, and that'll be the end of it. If 1,000 of us walk down to my courthouse or to the city hall during a citywide meeting, we'll probably get more attention, and something is more than likely to get done. Would you agree or not? Quint, would you agree or not? So I could make a difference, sort of, okay. So you think that I could make as much difference by myself as I could with having 1,000 people behind me saying the same thing as me? I'm just one person saying I want this change. But if there was 1,000 of us, 10,000 of us, 100,000 of us, then we're going to get listened to. Then changes will start. Reason being, look at critical race theory and how many parents are pushing against it at school board meetings. Yes, it is still curriculum. I'm not sure I'm following you on that. I don't. That's an educational curriculum. I don't think that teachers should be in a spot to educate our children about sexual abuse. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to approach that question or statement. I don't. I think our schools need to focus. Numbers don't mean anything. Passion, reason, and tact can make more of a difference. Just my opinion. I agree. I agree with that last statement, sort of. If there was 10,000 of us, because this is something that I'm passionate about. I run a Facebook group called Get to Know. This isn't the only platform that I do this on. I know I'm still fairly new at it and whatever, but this is something I am extremely passionate about. Um, if me being as passionate about this as I am, going to a city hall meeting or what have you to make a change with this kind of stuff, I probably might get hurt. The chances that something's going to change are greatly diminished. But if there are 10,000 of us that are just as passionate about this as I am and making the change for our children's future, then we're going to get heard. Then we're going to get, I think most people out there, John Q. Citizen, would agree with you 100%. There aren't enough laws and protections in place for kids. You're right. There's not. And why is that? Why do you think it's like that, Clint? Why do you think it's like that? Why do you think there's not enough laws or protections in place for our children? Why do you think that is? What's up, baby? I got this lighter. If you need lighter. There would be a very small portion of the population who would disagree. Yep, I agree. There would be a very small portion of the population that would disagree. I don't have a good answer to that. I I think it's that way because it's something that is becoming normalized. It is unfortunately how I feel. Pedophilia is becoming something that is not looked down upon as harsh anymore for some ungodly fucking reason, whatever it may be. These people out there that are in position of making these laws and putting them into effect, they're probably more than likely pedophiles themselves. I mean, if you participate in an action, okay, let's say like in Idaho, it's illegal to possess marijuana in Idaho, okay? If I'm in a position of power to make a punishment for possession of marijuana and I participate in possessing marijuana, I'm going to make it so if I get caught with this possession of marijuana, I'm going to make it so I get a slap on the hand penalty. It don't matter what it is. So I'm going to make that penalty a light penalty. If I'm in a position of power to make the penalties for a crime, and I participate in that crime, am I going to make that punishment for that crime one that I'm going to get executed for? One that I can spend the rest of my life in prison for? No, I'm not going to make that the kind of penalty. I'm going to make it something that I just get a slap on the hand for. That's why I believe these laws and penalties for these laws are the way they are. It's because the people that are in positions of power to make these laws and carry out these punishments for these laws participate in these actions themselves. Thanks, Izzy Pop. I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. What do you think, Izzy Pop? Why do you think our judicial system is so lenient on pedophiles? What's your opinion on that, Izzy Pop? Quint, did that kind of make sense to you? Did that kind of maybe give you an idea of what I was talking about on positions of power and making penalties for crimes? I mean, just wondering. That's just my opinion. That's how I feel about it. Yeah, totally. See what I mean? See, I'm glad that made sense to you. I'm glad I could kind of clear that up for you. Um, hey, you don't have to agree, and I'm not saying I'm not saying that's why it is the way it is. That's just part of many of ideas that I have of why things are the way they are. She says, or he, I'm not sure, can't see their picture. Says, I don't know if I agree, but I follow your logic. Yeah, the logic's behind it. Um, I I'm a firm believer that if penalties were harsher and actually carried out, then pedophilia and these predators would become less and less and less in this country. Let's say you take when it comes to actual sexually abusing a child. I'm not talking about pissing in the park or pissing in the bushes or mooning a passing car as you drive down the freeway. That stuff, I don't count that stuff as sexual abuse. I'm talking about actual physically sexually abusing somebody and a child. I believe the penalties should be extreme. Extreme. 20 years to life, if not the death penalty. How many sexual predators would be out there in this world if they knew they get busted one fucking time, caught one fucking time, they're going to prison for 20 fucking years as a sex offender? Unfortunately, lawyers who get a lot of these people off with lighter sentences. The laws and penalties are pretty tough as they are, but they're not. They're not. Here's what I think a major problem is when it comes to these lawyers getting pedophiles off charges. A lot of it honestly has to do with the prosecution. The prosecution will go to the defendant's lawyer and make them a plea bargain, a plea deal. If you plead guilty to this, we'll drop this. What they don't do is the prosecution don't go and ask the victim if making that plea deal with that predator is okay. He didn't give me no fucking plea deal when he was raping me and abusing me. Why should he get one in the courtroom from somebody who doesn't know me being accepted by somebody else who doesn't know me? Yes, it is sickening. It is sickening. This is what I'm talking about. These are the things that need to be changed in this country when it comes to sexual abuse charges. There's ways to break it down. There's ways to make sure that pedophiles are monitored. Saying a pedophile can't live within 500 feet of a school is fucking ridiculous. They shouldn't live within 1,000 yards of a school. I don't give a shit if there's a school every 800 fucking yards. Then I guess move out of town and find a town that doesn't have a school in 1,000 yards from where you want to live. That's how I believe. I don't think there should be tiers to the sex offender registry. If you sexually abuse somebody, then you sexually abuse that person. You should be on the registry for the rest of your fucking life. For the rest of your existence, you should be on that registry for the rest of your life. You should have a probation officer that you have to report to every fucking month for the rest of your life. You should get fined millions upon millions of dollars that would never get collected upon. You should spend at least 20 years in fucking prison. That's how it should be. How many people are going to be willing to put all that at risk, just at jeopardy and jeopardize that kind and jeopardize all of that to sexually abuse somebody? Yes, there will be ones that do. I guarantee you the numbers drop. I don't remember what country it's in, but one country in this world, they have had like 0 DUIs in the last 35 years. You know why that is? This country, not our country, this country made it so if you get picked up for a DUI on the side of the road, they execute you on the side of the road. First offense, before you go into a courtroom, before you get a lawyer, if you blow hot and are intoxicated, they execute you. That country hasn't had a DUI in 35 years or more now. Shoe kind of fits in the same scenario. If you made it so everybody that got picked up and sentenced to sexual acts against children, if you made it so the penalty was death, I guarantee you there would be a lot less pedophilia in this country. I guarantee it. Most people who do that don't think they will be caught. It's always someone else who gets caught, never themselves. You're right. And that's where educating our children on this kind of stuff and reassuring our children that if it does happen to them, that they can come and talk to their parents about it and something will be done about it. That's where that comes in. No, there's not one solid answer. There's not one definitive answer to fix all these problems. There are multiple answers to fix multiple problems in this country when it comes to the way sexual crimes are handled in our country. I think all sex crimes should be on a federal level. They shouldn't be on a statewide level. It should be federal. Just like I was saying earlier, my brother-in-law is doing 26 years in prison for trafficking drugs. The pedophile that was there before him, that got sentenced before him, got a slap on the hand, and he was in there for his fourth or fifth charge of lewd acts against a child under the age of 12. My brother-in-law brought drugs to drug addicts who 99.9% of them were adults and made the choice to be an addict themselves. And this dude violated another child for his fifth time that he got caught for, and he does way less time. It just don't make sense to me. It's got to be hard for a parent to talk to their kids about this, though, I imagine. Seems as if you want to teach them about abuse and how to avoid it, and how to tell, but you'd also want to prevent them from knowing about it and keep their innocence. There's plenty of time for ugly things in life. You're right. You're right. I agree. And if you would have caught this live stream from the beginning, you would have heard me say that that's what this channel's here for as well. I was sexually abused from the summer I turned 5 until the summer I turned 12. And I didn't tell my parents until I was 17. The summer I turned 16 or 17. And I hadn't been abused for years before that. And when I told my parents about what happened, it fucking devastated them. And to this day, I know they carry around guilt for it. And that's another thing this channel is here for, is to help parents who have had children or have children that have been sexually abused on how to handle it. A place for them to go to talk to about it, on maybe an approach to talk to their children about it. I fortunately know that my kids haven't been sexually abused. My daughter's almost 14. My son just turned 16. And I can say that I know they haven't been. So I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. And I'm so glad that I will never know what it's like to be a parent of a sexually abused child. But I know parents of children who have been sexually abused and their parents haven't been. And that's what we're here for. This channel is to help people with all kinds of, we're just here to help. I just want to help people with information. I might not have the information that someone needs right at that moment, but I'll find somebody who does. I could maybe even talk to my parents, because and have them tell a little bit of their story on what it was like for them to find out that I was sexually abused. You know, um, maybe I'll talk to them, see what they say, and get their opinion. Um, Hopefully, this reaches somebody, and hopefully, this live reaches somebody, and they come out and they say, "Hey, maybe my kid's acting this way or this way," and we can all put our heads together and think about it and see and give them the best advice we can. We have to protect our children. Yes, we do. There are things in this world that no parent wants to have to talk to their children about. Like I was saying earlier in this live stream, we have to talk to our children about sexual abuse to keep our children from being sexually abused, to help keep them from being sexually abused. This is a subject that I wish I never had to talk to my kids about. And frankly, I should have never had to have. But I did. I didn't want to. I still did. But it kept them safe. So in the end, it's worth it for me. With the normalization, with how sexual activity is starting to be normalized in this country from every possible angle, unfortunately, our kids don't get to keep a hold of that childhood sense of innocence as long as they used to. Um, I wish that I would have never had to have talked to my kids about it at all, but I did. Well, I appreciate your passion on the subject. You obviously care. Yes, thank you, and I do, and I appreciate you being here. Um, are you on YouTube often? Do you have your own channel or anything, Quint? Or are you just cruising through, seeing what's on? Misty Rose, how are you? How are you? I'm glad you are here. I'm glad you're here. You don't need to apologize that you just see me. I'm glad you've seen it. I'm glad you're here now. How are you doing? Yeah, I subscribed. I just stumbled upon your live. I'll hop on from time to time. Great, Quint. I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. I appreciate you being here. Um, I don't do lives very often. I've been dealing with some medical stuff here lately. It's kind of kept me from doing it. So I hope to gain a bigger following so we can reach more people and start making a difference in our country for this. I'm just going to get StreamYard here in the next week or so I can actually pull people up on panel and have them come up. I'd love to have you come up and we can have a discussion. My channel will always be open panel. Everybody will be welcome. Misty Rose, my family and I, we're doing as well as can be. Things are kind of tough right now, but it's all right. Almost died 3 weeks ago, so I'm glad to be here. The recovery from a simple surgery is taking quite a bit longer than it normally should have, from what I understand. But I'm not going to bitch and complain. I still got my wife, I still got my kids, and I'm alive. So today I'm good. Um, Today we're just talking about the same old that I usually do, Misty Rose. We're talking about the sex offender registry and how I feel it's a failed program and the changes I think need to be made to it. Um, just trying to help create awareness about sexual abuse as children towards children. That's my only purpose for here on YouTube. So, um, any questions? But from anybody, there's 4 of you or 5 of you now watching. So, anybody got any questions you'd like to ask about whatever? Maybe I can get them answered, and if not, I'll do some research and I'll come to you live here in the next day or two, and hopefully have an answer for you. Um, Beyond the Terror, it's going. I'm alive today, so I'm good. I'm good. How are you today? Um, I know that I know that pedophilia in this country is out of control, and it's something that we need to address and make a stand for and get changed as soon as we can. Alive is always being alive is always a good day. Yes, sir. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're good. Um, how did you hear about my channel, or did you just stumble upon it? Do you know what this channel is about? Do you want me to fill you in a little bit, or what? Anyway, so um, yes, I think okay. So when it comes to, I just stumbled on your channel. Feel free to fill me in. Okay. Beyond the Terror, this channel is about creating knowledge and educating people on actually how bad pedophilia is in our country, in America, how lenient the penalties for these crimes are in our country. Um, it's about support for people who have been sexually abused and are trying to deal with their sexual abuse. I myself am a survival of childhood sexual abuse from the summer I turned 5 till the summer I turned 12. My wife is a survivor of sexual abuse. And so this channel is about being supportive of other people who have been sexually abused, helping parents cope with the fact that their children have been sexually abused if they don't know how to deal with it. Um, Hopefully, it gets popular enough to start making a push to actually make changes to laws and penalties when it comes to sexual abuse towards children. Um, yes, Beyond the Terror says, yes, I agree. Those things have gotten bad. I have suffered from it, but he got away with it, unfortunately. My abuser did too. Unfortunately, he's still alive, and I'm sure he's still doing it himself. Um, Unfortunately, that is something that happens in this country when it comes to sexual abuse so often. Way too often. Way too much. They just get away with it, and it's wrong. So I fear it's getting more normalized. You're right. It is. Thank you, Quint. Thank you, Quint. That's what I've been saying. This action is becoming normalized. Way too normalized. Before you know it, if shit keeps going the way it's going, this whole country will be so where you can have sex with anything or anyone you want to, anytime you want to, and it's fucking wrong. And now's our time to stand up as one person, as one united front, and take this shit on and make a fucking difference in this country before it's too late. That's what we're here for. If you agree with that, put a 1 in the chat. If it's time to make a change for this right now, stand beside me. Let's do this, and let's get it changed. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree. Thank you. See that? All 3 of you. Thank you. I don't have very many people of you following me right now, but I don't care. I got 5 watching and only 3 ones in the chat. 4 ones in the chat. 4 out of 5 ain't bad. 4 out of 5 of us agree. If I could put a 1 in the chat myself, maybe I can. Hell yeah, I can too. So there you go. There's my 1 in the chat. You know what I mean? So there you go. So let's do this. I'm going to start doing these lives more often. I'm going to start making a difference. Hope you guys are with me. Sugar Glider, I love you, baby. Thank you for always being supportive of me. Misty Rose, thank you for being here. I love that you're here. I'm going to start doing these lives way more often. I'm working on it. I'm working on building up a following. I just got over 70 subscribers, so we'll see how it goes. It's a slow pace, but Quint, tell your friends about my channel. Tell your family about my channel. Beyond the Terror, tell your friends about my channel. Tell your family about my channel. Get them subscribed. You guys will all start receiving notifications about it when I go live. Let's make a difference in this world. Always remember, one child is one too many. And if we don't do something drastic now, pretty soon it'll be every child. Pretty soon it'll be every child. Think about that for a minute. Every child a sexual victim in our country if we don't make a change now. I'm not a believer in too little, too late. I'll believe that it's too late to try to make a difference the day I draw my last breath. I don't care if I got 5 people in my chat, or if I got 500 people in my chat, or 5,000 people in my chat, or 70 subscribers, or 7,000 subscribers, or 700,000 subscribers. I don't care about that. What I care about is making a positive change for our children in this country now. That's what I feel. That's what's important to me. That's what needs to be done. Changes need to be made, and they need to be made now before it's too late. I just hope those criminals get their karma. I agree. Beyond the terror, I agree with you. I hope karma gets them too. I know one thing for sure. After they perish from this world, I know they'll get their final judgment. I know it don't do much for the victims on this planet that they made, and it don't do much for closure for a victim. But it helps me deal with my abuse and makes it a little bit more tolerable. Yeah, so I've been at this for about an hour and 15 minutes now. I need to eat. My stomach's starting to hurt because of the surgery I had, and whatnot. I know my perpetrator is getting his just desserts, knowing people think differently of him now, knowing all the rumors are true to him, of him. Yes, I bet that feels so good. I know that feels good. There's people that didn't believe me 25 years ago that I was abused by this person, that believe me now, that know that I wasn't lying then. And this person that was accepted by all family members, one of the most accepted family members in my whole entire family, and I have a huge family, is now shunned by 90% of them. Makes me feel good. I may never got legal justice, but he'll get his. He'll get his. Beyond Terror, do you have your own channel? Are you on Facebook or YouTube a lot? Yes, it does feel good. And some justice is there. You're right. You're right. It does. It does. I'm mostly on YouTube. Well, I meant YouTube. I didn't mean to say Facebook, but I got a channel on Facebook by the same name, Get2Know too. So, or a page on Facebook, a group, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Are you a moderator for any channels Beyond the Terror? You seem to kind of have the same, not really, but I have mods for my own. Okay, well, I'll offer you. Would you like to be a mod on my channel? I'll make you mod if you want. You know, and that way you can come in whenever I'm on too, and you can drop the link to your channel. I don't know what your channel's about, but I'm here to support other creators and stuff too. Yeah. All right. Thank you for subbing. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And there you go. Oh wow, Resident Evil. Love that game. Hey, you know what? I don't know if many of you guys remember Resident Evil 2. I know this is way off subject, but it's kind of good. And this, for this reason alone, Misty Rose, you don't know this yet, but I created this thing where I pick a hero of the chat every single time I go live. And today, Misty Rose, you're my hero for bringing up Resident Evil because I am a Resident Evil junkie. And when Resident Evil 2 first came out, there was a hidden level on there. And in order to get that level, you had to beat the whole entire game without using the hell spray and in under 2 hours and without dying. And you got a secret game called Tofu. I got it. Like I was one of the very first people to ever get it in under 2 hours. Leon's my favorite too. Leon, yeah. A bizarre incident occurred in a small American suburb called Raccoon City. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Resident Evil Die Hard right here. Right here. So you're good. You know, I had a friend of mine who would literally pay me $20 to sit down and play that game. Just so he could sit there and watch me play. So the day I did it, dude, it was crazy. I barely came in under 2 hours, and I about died when the game went haywire and it reset itself, and then this big old blob of tofu came up, and all you had was a knife, and I was like, how the hell are you supposed to beat all these damn zombies if all you got's a goddamn knife? Because zombies don't eat tofu, dumbass. Go figure, you know? Anyway, Misty Rose, thank you for being here. Beyond the Terror. Yeah, maybe I'll do it again, and maybe I'll show you. Zombies know like, that's right. Zombies know like tofu. Oh, that's right. Zombies know like tofu. You're a walking hero right there. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't got nothing to worry. In the world, in the land of zombies, tofu ain't got shit to worry about. You know? I mean, it made sense to me shortly after I started playing. I was like, why aren't these zombies attacking me? It's because you're tofu, dumbass. Nobody wants to eat tofu. No zombies do. You know? But anyway, Mr. Rose, thank you for being here. Beyond the Terror, thank you for being here, and a new sub and subscriber to my channel. I appreciate it. Please put a thumbs up on your way out today. And if you want me to keep bringing more content like this, I know it's probably not the best of all content in the world, but if y'all want me to keep bringing more content like this, throw one in the chat real quick for me. And with that being said, much respect and love for each and every one of you that joined me today. I appreciate all your guys' time that you guys have given me today. Take time out of your personal lives just to watch my ugly ass sit up here and talk about a very unpopular subject, but a very important one indeed. Thank you all. Much love, much respect. Always remember, one child is one too many.